This was the only show in my career that I should have stayed home. The moral of the story is if you're sick, cancel your gig. I didn't, and here's how it went. It was November 2019, so it was pre COVID, right before COVID. I had a gig at a new venue. I was pretty excited to play. It's a coffee shop that's connected to a tattoo place. It's a coffee shop that is actually a bar and restaurant also. So they serve coffee in the morning and then they have, full bar at night and food. And I went and met with the owner before getting booked, and I really thought it was going to be a great fit. We hit it off well. We had a lot in common. It was not an upscale place, but it wasn't a dive. You know what I mean? It was a little bit nicer. And they were actually like Harley enthusiasts and stuff like that. In fact, they host some bike nights, but it wasn't like a biker vibe. It was, you think tattoo and bikes, but it was. It was a little nicer, and definitely a classic rock. I thought my set list was going to go great there, and after talking to them, really thought it was going to be a great show, a great fit for me. They paid well, and I was excited to add this gig to my or add this venue to my list of venues. And in about a couple days before the show, I promoted it on social media. They promoted. I think they were a little excited about it. They had a lot of good acts there. They didn't really have anybody bad. They required you to come in and meet with them and talk with them before you gigged there, which I thought was kind of cool. That was okay. So, I was really excited about this gig, and about a couple days before I was supposed to play there, I started to feel a little bit sick. And I've never canceled a show for illness at this point in 2019. I had never canceled a show because I was sick, and I'm just one of those guys that I don't go to the doctor that often. I'm one of those people. I don't go to the doctor that often. I don't get sick that often, probably because I'm always on the go. I just keep moving. But that's another video. But so about a couple days before, I started getting really sick, and I started getting real hoarse in my throat. It was real raw, almost to the point where I couldn't even cough. I couldn't talk. I just noticed one day I was like singing in the car, and I couldn't sing like over just a monotone voice. My voice would just either be non-existent or crack. I had a show the week before, and it was just starting to happen, but I made it through the night. I didn't really think much about it. And then this was about a couple days before, and I thought, oh boy. But I never thought about canceling. I was excited. I didn't want to disappoint them. They were putting it on Facebook. I was putting it out there, and honestly, I thought that come showtime that I would get enough adrenaline and that I'd be fine. I'd make it through. Kind of like the weekend I had the weekend before. I wasn't 100%, but I made it through. And I thought the same thing would happen here. I thought I'd be okay. And so leading up that day, in the morning, I still couldn't sing. I drank like, I don't know, probably a bottle of NyQuil or Dayquil and NyQuil. I don't even remember. And I thought I would be able to get through it. So that was a really bad decision to try and just let the adrenaline carry me through. Uh, as the gig started, the first song, I kind of knew I was in trouble. I dressed nice. I got there early. They set me up. As kind of the focal point of the like bar area that they had there, and I literally went to play the first song. I don't remember what song it was, but I literally like the guitar sounded pretty, but I couldn't sing at all. I mean, I couldn't sing Bob Dylan. I couldn't sing anything. And the owner even came up to me about the second or third song. I was trying to just kind of get out what I could when I could, pick some spots to try and sing something. The owner came up and said, hey, the guitar sounds great, but we can't hear you over there. We can't hear you singing or whatever. And I finally had to confess because I was like three songs in. I had to kind of confess, and I was like, I'm not feeling, I'm not feeling too good. I'm sick. I kind of lost my voice. And she kind of looked at me like, what? You know what I mean? And walked away. And, things kind of went real south real quick from there. So it was still pretty early in the set, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes into the set, not even 45 minutes. And I had some friends come out to support. I had a friend that was in from out of town, a musician, and some other friends came out. And it was a really crappy night, I remember. November in Ohio, Northeast Ohio. It was snowing really bad. It was a really crappy night. But still had some people come out, and I had a group of friends come out, And, it was towards the end of November going into December. So it was kind of holiday time or whatever. And a lot of friends that hadn't seen each other in a while. So everyone was drinking pretty heavily, except for me. I was drinking NyQuil and I was not feeling good, but all my friends were drinking pretty good, pretty healthy. And I literally had just been playing guitar and kind of singing, but not sounding very good. I know these people were probably like, what is going on? And so I had a couple of friends, I had my musician friend from out of town come up, and he's not really an acoustic solo guy. He's in a band, he's loud, he's not obnoxious, but obnoxious when drinking, and he wasn't there for the he wasn't there to play a gig, so he wasn't in that state of mind. But he can sing and play. He's incredibly talented. So he was like, "Hey man, you want to come up and play a couple songs?" So he came up, but he was kind of drunk and kind of loud, and it wasn't the vibe these people wanted. And then I had some other friends come up, and basically it became like drunk karaoke time at the at the bar. Everybody else the rest of their crowd cleared out. Now I had a lot of friends there spending a lot of money, so they weren't losing money on that night. With my friends alone, but definitely became kind of a drunk karaoke night. And they even pulled me aside. The owners are like, "Hey, if you're going to have somebody else sing, you should let us know what you're doing or whatever." And they were totally right. I was totally wrong, but I didn't know what to do. I was really panicked. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get through, another 2 hours of this. So I was just trying to salvage the night and just have some entertainment. So I was playing the guitar and people were singing that probably shouldn't have been singing. You know what I mean? But I was trying to salvage the night. So needless to say, the owners were pretty disappointed. I was like, listen, I thought I could. I told them, I was like, listen, I thought I could play this gig. I was excited to play this gig, and I was talking like, you know, Froggy from Little Rascals, if anyone remembers that. But I was like, hey, I really wanted to play this, and I told him, look, I'm not going to charge you or whatever. And they didn't pay me when I left. They didn't pay me anything. I would have thought they would have paid me $50 for showing up. You know what I mean? But no, they didn't, and that's okay. I was surprised. That's never happened to me. Never happened to me since. I've never had a gig like that. This was absolutely my nightmare worst gig. What was even worse was like the next day, right? I'm always trying to be professional. So I sent them an email like, hey, I'm sorry this happened, whatever. Again, I explained to them, I was really sick. I thought I could make it through. I didn't want to cancel on you guys. I was excited about the gig. If you ever want to give me another try, because they know me, they know my social media. If you look at my shorts or whatever, I play a lot of cover songs and songs people. I play 120 plus shows at wineries a year. You know what I mean? So that wasn't my that wasn't my normal night. So I sent him an email, said, hey, if you want to try me again, give you a complimentary show. I feel really bad or whatever. And I sent it on Facebook through the messages, so you can see when someone reads it. It says read receipt or read receipt, and they didn't reply. They didn't reply at all. And I was like, I felt really bad, but I was like, all right. I mean, they were being kind of jerky about it too. I mean, they could have thrown me some gas money. You know what I mean? I didn't care about the money at all, but just the way they kind of handled. They didn't say like, oh, you're sick, it's okay. Why don't you cut it for the night? Or they never asked me to stop playing because people were drinking and spending money. So they never asked me like, hey, why don't we just call it a night? That never happened. I did play the whole night and it was freezing and I had to pack up, but even worse was them not responding to that email. I was like, they could have just said, like, hey, it is what it is or something, said respond some way. And then actually then later that year, well then COVID came. I think I had COVID. I don't know. Maybe I had COVID or I was just sick. I don't, one of those things. But then about 6 months later, we went, some buddies of mine, they had a bike night. And a buddy of mine was actually playing outside, set up outside, playing all the songs I play. And he was playing, and we went, and I saw them. I don't know if they recognized me or not, but I sent a message the next day complimenting them on what a nice bike night they put together. And again, reminding them, hey, I feel bad. I was sick that night. If you ever want to try it again, I'll play a show for you. And again, same thing. Read receipt and didn't respond. I was kind of like, nah, man, that's kind of jerky. But I can't really be mad at them. It's my fault. I should have canceled the gig. If I would have just canceled that gig because I was sick, even if they were disappointed or whatever, I could have rebooked another show and played there, and they would have been part of my roster for sure. So as I kind of reflect on it, looking back that time, and then COVID hit after that. I was sick. I didn't want to cancel that. I didn't want to cancel that gig, but I wasn't reckless. I didn't want to cancel the gig, and forcing a gig while sick can kind of ruin the relationship, and that's what happened here. So it really was all my fault. The lesson for musicians or new musicians, and I don't know if this would reach anybody, but if you're sick, especially if you can't sing, if you have laryngitis, and it happens, you lose your voice sometimes or whatever. Since that happened, that was 2019. I've probably canceled, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 gigs since then because I was sick, but I learned my lesson and I was sick and I was better off to cancel. And I think each time I went out and found somebody to fill in for me. That's important too as a musician. But if you're sick, you're better off to cancel your gig. That's the big lesson. Your reputation as a musician is bigger than playing one show. Your reputation over the whole. I don't think I ruined my reputation. I still play. Many gigs, and they know that. I'm sure they know that too. We're local. We're local, but venues will. If I would have just canceled that gig, that venue would have they would have rescheduled at some point, and that would have been better than this train wreck that I had going on that night. Protect your voice, be professional, and then you'll get future bookings. And then if something like this does happen, the other lesson I learned is that you don't have to chase a venue. Like if they don't communicate back to you, like in this case, they didn't respond to me or whatever, I'm not going to chase them, beg them anymore or whatever. I play plenty of shows and I'm sure they see my social media and stuff like that. So it's just one of those things. I should have canceled the gig. So this was 2019. I haven't had anything even close to that since that disaster. If you gig long enough, you'll have your own disaster story, and it is what it is. But I hope this one spares you. I hope if you're sick, you cancel. And if you're trying to gig or do music as a side hustle, I'll be sharing this stuff every week. So like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you.